A man stands in the outer courts of the temple in Jerusalem, breathing in the stench of wet animal wool mixed with the sharp scent of burning frankincense. This was not a loss of control. It was a calculated, premeditated exorcism. To feel the weight of what is about to happen, the priests had taken the only space on the entire mountain designated for the nations and paved it over with a monopoly. If you were a Gentile seeking Yahweh, you had to stand in this exact courtyard. This was your assigned space. This was your sanctuary, but you could not pray over the bellowing of cattle. You could not seek God over the haggling of silver exchange rates. You could not hear the scriptures over the screaming of the market. The religious elite built a wall of noise and commerce to keep the outside world out. Jesus tears the wall down. He sweeps the floor clean so the nations can finally kneel. He empties the corrupted space, so the outsiders can finally enter the presence. The Roman sentries standing on the high Antonia wall watch the entire courtyard collapse into absolute bedlam. They see a single unarmed man overturning heavy tables. They see the wealthy religious mafia fleeing in terror. But the hardened legionnaires do not draw their iron swords. They do not sound the trumpets. Because when the dust finally settles, the man standing in the center of the floor makes an outrageous claim. The religious authorities step out from the shaded colonnades. They do not signal the Romans for an arrest. They do not call for the temple guard to throw him in chains. Instead, they demand his credentials. You have to step into the crush of the Passover crowd. The year is likely around 27 AD. What sign do you show us for doing these things? To the modern reader, the question feels like a defensive deflection. But in the legal framework of first-century Judaism, it is a precise, calculated challenge. You do not unilaterally halt the sacrificial machinery of the nation unless you hold the deed to the house. Only a legitimate prophet, or the anointed king himself, has the jurisdiction to challenge the high priest's administration of the sacred space. Jesus answers them with a sentence that redefines the cosmos. Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. The authorities look at him with absolute contempt. They look at the massive 50-ton limestone blocks. They point to the gold-plated doors reflecting the blinding Judean sun, the heavy cedar beams imported from the forests of Lebanon. They see 46 years of back-breaking human masonry, a towering architectural marvel designed to house the glory of God. They are entirely missing the profound theological shift happening right in front of them. John notes that the disciples remembered this moment years later and connected it to an ancient line from the Psalms. Zeal for your house will consume me. But the zeal of Jesus is widely misunderstood. We tend to read zeal as enthusiasm. Hundreds of thousands of pilgrims are flooding into Jerusalem from across the known world. They have walked for weeks, their feet blistered, a kind of aggressive passion for religious rule-keeping. But in the biblical imagination, the zeal of God is a consuming fire that burns away the obsolete to make room for the permanent. When Jesus uses the braided cords to drive the sheep and the oxen out of the gates, he is not just making a point about economic fairness. He is performing a prophetic shutdown of the entire Levitical system. The blood of bulls and goats is no longer required. He is not purifying a stone building to save its operations. He is standing in the wreckage to declare its replacement. The sacrifices are running out the door because the final lamb has just walked in. He is the true temple. He is the living meeting place between heaven and earth. He is the holy ground where the nations can finally approach Yahweh without an extortionate exchange rate. The physical building, with all its corrupt commerce and guarded barriers, is suddenly obsolete. The religious elite are staring at a man they believe is a Galilean lunatic. They are standing in a courtyard that still smells of crushed dung, spilled wine, and shattered cedar. They are furious at the disruption of their control, but they are entirely distracted, their cloaks coated in the pale, chalky dust of the Judean hills. They have come to offer a sacrifice to Yahweh by their own lost authority. And, because of their blindness, they fail to look down at what is currently shining in the dirt, right at their feet. The silver lies in the dust. Roman denarii, Tyrian shekels, copper half pennies. The coins glint in the harsh Judean sun. They are scattered across the massive limestone blocks, rolling into the deep cracks, mixing with the crushed straw and the wet animal dung. The merchants drop to their knees. They scrape the cold stone. They dig their fingers into the filth. Their fingernails bleed against the rough limestone. They are desperate to recover their profit. Look closely at the silver they are frantically gathering. The temple authorities require one specific currency for the sacred tax: the Tyrian shekel. It is the only coin they accept because it contains the highest purity of silver, but it carries a massive, dark irony. The coin is stamped with the image of Melkart. Melkart is the pagan patron god of Tyre. He is a foreign idol. The high priests of Yahweh demand a pagan idol to purchase a holy sacrifice. The hypocrisy is staggering. The corruption is absolute. Jesus shatters the tables because the tables are altars to a false god. The physical posture of the scene tells the entire theological story. Jesus stands tall in the center of the courtyard. He holds no silver. He holds no official title. He has no armed guards, but they cannot bring their own animals. The journey is too dangerous, and the risk of the animal sustaining a blemish on the road is too high. The religious elite crawl in the filth. They hold the institutional power. They hold the massive wealth. They hold the political leverage with the Roman garrison watching from the wall above. But in this moment, they are the ones on the floor. The true high priest has entered his sanctuary. The pretenders are scrambling in the dust. The merchants do not look up at the man who overturned their livelihood. They only look down at what they have lost. They are surrounded by the deafening silence of the paused market. The sheep are gone. The oxen are gone. Only the men in the dirt remain. This is not a financial crisis. It is a spiritual diagnosis. They choose the silver over the Savior. They choose the shadow over the substance. The living presence of God breathes the same air, standing just feet away from them, and they are too busy counting their recovered coins to notice the kingdom of heaven has arrived. It is a pathetic, terrifying scene. But before you judge the men on their knees, you have to look at your own hands. Jesus watches them crawl in the dirt. He knows exactly what they are carrying. And the sight of those scattered coins points to a question that stretches far beyond that first-century courtyard. A man sits in the dirt to weave a cord, and the extortion of the temple is brought to a halt, so they are forced to buy their sacrifices here, inside the temple precincts. And to buy them, they must exchange their Roman denarii pagan coins. He swings the rushes across the stone floor, and a possessed space is exorcised. He shatters the heavy wooden tables, and the barriers keeping the nations out are leveled. He spares the cages of the fragile doves, and the offering of the poorest widow is protected. The sacrificial animals are driven through the eastern gates, and the era of the blood of bulls is finished. The merchants scramble in the filth for their pagan silver, and the spiritual blindness of a nation is exposed. And the true lamb stands alone in the wreckage, and the house of God is finally made clean. One cord, one eviction, one true temple. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the silence of the Roman soldiers standing on the Antonia wall. They look down at a man dismantling an entire religious economy, overturning heavy tables, and scattering thousands of silver coins across the floor. They are trained to kill at the first sign of a riot. Yet they do not draw a single sword, because they recognize the difference between a man losing his temper and a king claiming his territory. He is in complete control of the chaos. If you are in a season stamped with the face of Tiberius Caesar, a man claiming to be the son of a god for approved temple shekels, where your life feels like that courtyard floor where tables are being flipped, where things you relied on are suddenly crashing to the ground, where the noise and the panic feel entirely out of control, you have to look at who is standing in the center of the room. He is not having a tantrum with your life. He is not destroying things blindly. He is doing the slow, deliberate work of eviction. He is driving out the things that have occupied your heart so that the space can finally be used for what it was built for. Your disruption is not an accident. It is an exorcism. And may the God who braided the cords in the dirt, the God who clears the floor so you can, finally kneel, walk with you through the wreckage of your own temples, and bring you into the quiet of his true presence. The exchange rate is extortion. It is a spiritual monopoly designed to bleed the poorest worshippers dry. Worse, all of this commerce is happening in the court of the Gentiles. This is the massive outer courtyard, the only space on the entire 50-acre Temple Mount where a non-Jew is permitted to stand and seek God. He is surrounded by the panicked bleating of thousands of sheep, the frantic flapping of caged doves. The singular space, designed for the nations to pray, has been paved over with a livestock market. Jesus walks into this chaos. He feels the crush of bodies. He hears the haggling, the cheating, the bellowing of cattle echoing off massive limestone blocks. But he does not yell. He does not start flipping tables the moment he crosses the threshold. John is the only gospel writer who gives us the exact choreography of what happens next. The other gospels compress the scene, but John slows the camera down, and his sequence changes everything. Before a single table is overturned, before a single coin scatters across the cold stone floor, Jesus does something that entirely destroys the idea of a spontaneous outburst. He finds a place to sit, and he begins an action that requires deliberate, quiet, and terrifying focus. Look up from the dirt. Look at the skyline. At the exact northwest corner of the temple complex, a heavy shadow falls across the white marble. It is the shadow of the Antonia Fortress. 4 massive stone towers, thick limestone walls, Roman sentries standing on the parapets. They are looking down. They are always looking down. This is the historical context most readers completely ignore. Passover is a powder keg. The population of Jerusalem swells from 50,000 to nearly 500,000. The streets choke with bodies. The air is thick with smoke. Nationalism burns hot. And the endless, metallic clink of foreign coins sliding across wooden tables. The noise is deafening. He is just watching. Because of this, the Roman governor leaves his comfortable coastal palace in Caesarea. He marches into Jerusalem. He brings heavy reinforcements. He stations them right here, in the Antonia. The fortress literally shares a wall with the temple. 2 wide flights of stairs lead directly from the Roman barracks down into the court of the Gentiles. They watch the courtyard. They watch the gates. They hold their spears. They wait for a spark. Just a few decades earlier, during the Passover of 4 BC, a riot in this exact courtyard ended with the Roman legions slaughtering 3,000 worshippers. The blood ran down the temple steps. Every pilgrim remembers it. Every soldier expects it to happen again. This is a space wired for immediate, lethal retaliation. A sudden loud noise, a scuffle over coins, a group of men shouting in rebellion. Any of these things should bring the garrison down the steps in seconds. Rome does not tolerate disruption. Rome does not negotiate with mobs. If a crowd panics, Rome draws iron. If a riot breaks out, Rome crucifies the instigators before the sun sets. The Temple Mount is the most heavily surveilled 50 acres on the planet. Now, put Jesus back into this space. If he loses his temper, if he wildly thrashes about, screaming, completely unhinged, you have probably seen stained glass depictions of this moment. You know the Sunday school version. Most people read this story and see a breaking point, sparking a massive panic among hundreds of thousands of pilgrims. The Roman garrison acts, blood spills on the marble, but the soldiers do not move. The heavy leather sandals do not march. The iron gates do not swing open. The trumpets do not sound the alarm. The silence of the Roman military is the loudest detail in the entire scene. It proves exactly what Rome saw looking down from the wall. Rome recognizes a violent mob. Rome recognizes a political uprising. They see a threat to the empire, and they crush it. But they do not recognize a theological judgment. This is not a chaotic rampage. It is a surgically precise demonstration of authority. A man blinded by rage is unpredictable. A man blinded by rage causes collateral damage. Jesus causes none. No one is trampled. No one is physically injured. No Roman guard feels the need to draw a sword. The disruption is massive, but the execution is flawless. He is not acting like a frantic zealot out of control. He is acting like a master of the house, who has finally returned to clean his floors. And the soldiers on the wall simply watch him work. Completely unthreatened by a single carpenter from Galilee, they assume the noise, the corruption, and the blatant extortion happening in his father's house simply became too much, because before he drives anyone out, he takes his time. The action does not begin with a shout. It begins in the dirt. He gathers the forgotten pieces of the market, and he begins to weave. He squats in the dust of the temple floor. The ground is littered with the debris of a massive livestock market. Droppings, crushed straw, and scraps of discarded material cover the sacred limestone. He reaches down into the filth. He gathers the loose, stiff rushes the prize, rough stalks used to tie up the legs of the cattle or bed the animals down for the night. He does not yell at the money changers. He does not immediately throw his shoulder into the nearest heavy wooden table. Instead, he finds a place to sit amidst the deafening chaos, and he begins to braid the reeds together. You can feel the abrasive, dry stalks scraping against the calluses of his palms. You can smell the overwhelming, suffocating stench of wet sheep wool, stale animal urine, and copper coins baking in the spring Judean sun. You can hear the relentless roar of the haggling merchants, men who are completely ignoring the Galileans sitting quietly in the dirt. Think about the physical mechanics of what he is doing. It is not a fast process. To take loose, brittle reeds and twist them tightly enough to form a solid cord capable of driving a massive bull. They assume Jesus of Nazareth finally snapped. They frame it as a divine tantrum, a momentary, albeit righteous, lapse into unbridled human rage. Requires time. It requires patience. It requires a calm, steady rhythm of the hands. For 5, maybe 10 minutes, Jesus simply sits on the stone pavement and works the fibers. The merchants are busy weighing silver. The pilgrims are desperately trying to secure an unblemished dove. The entire courtyard is spinning, in a frenzy of religious anxiety and corporate greed. And in the center of the hurricane, the eye of the storm is a man slowly twisting dried grass into a weapon. The law of Moses demanded that the priests inspect every sacrifice before it could be brought to the altar. The animal had to be completely flawless. But here, the system itself has become the blemish. The corrupt priests are busy inspecting the animals, completely unaware that the true high priest is currently inspecting them. This is not the spontaneous outburst of a man losing his temper. It is the calculated preparation of a priest cleansing his house. Every twist of the reed is intentional. He is letting his righteous anger burn hot, but he is refusing to let it burn out of control. He is building an instrument of disruption, forming it right in the middle of the space. He is about to dismantle. And when the cord is finally finished, when the whip is tightly bound and heavy in his right hand, he stands up. But he does not use it the way you have been told, where he loses his temper and goes on a rampage. And it is easy to read it that way when you skim the English translation. John chapter 2, verse 15. The text tells us exactly what he does when he finally stands up. He drives them all out of the temple, with the sheep and the oxen. The word your English Bible translates as whip is the Greek skoinion. It literally means a cord made of rushes or bulrushes. It is an agricultural tool. It is designed to guide livestock, not to flay human skin. He is not striking the merchants. He is hurting the animals. But the verb John pairs with it is where the real revelation hides. The word translated drove out is the Greek ekbalo. Ek, meaning out. Balo, meaning to cast or throw. It is a violent, forceful eviction. It is not a polite request to leave. It is an expulsion of an occupying force. It appears over 80 times in the Gospels, and its range of use is stunning. Matthew 8:16, Jesus ekbalo, the spirits with a word. Mark 1:34, he ekbalo, many demons across Galilee. Almost everywhere else in the New Testament that Jesus performs this specific, forceful action. He is not dealing with animals. He is not dealing with bad businessmen. He is dealing with the demonic. Ekbalo is the language of deliverance. It is the vocabulary of the spiritual battlefield. By choosing this exact word to describe what Jesus does in the temple, John is making a massive theological claim. But if you look closer at the specific Greek verbs John uses, at the physical layout of the first-century Temple Mount, about what has actually happened to the house of God, the extortion, the monopoly, the systemic robbery of the poor, it is not just bad policy. It is a spiritual occupation. The temple is not just a corrupt marketplace. It is a possessed body. This is not a spontaneous riot. It is a calculated exorcism. If watching the text open up like this, seeing the original Greek change the entire landscape of a famous story is stirring up questions you've never considered. You're exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe. Because every week we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. So he swings the chords. The sharp crack of the rushes echoes off the limestone walls. The air thickens with dust. The sheep scatter in a massive wave of white wool, and the heavy oxen bellow as they are driven toward the gates. He ekbalos the livestock. He ekbalos the system. He clears the floor. But the detail that changes everything is what he says to the men holding the cages. The sheep bolt toward the southern steps. The oxen surge toward the eastern gates. The heavy cord cracks through the thick, incense-choked air. Dust rises in heavy clouds. Hooves clatter wildly on the ancient limestone. The court of the Gentiles empties in a massive, chaotic wave of muscle and wool. And at one tiny, easily overlooked, physical detail happening down in the dirt, you start to see something the tantrum reading completely misses. But then Jesus turns to the dove sellers. He stops. He drops the whip. He does not swing the braided cords at the fragile wicker cages. He does not smash the wooden slats. He does not release the birds. If he opens those doors, the doves scatter into the bright Judean sky. The birds fly away. And the poorest pilgrims, the widows, the lepers, the untouchables lose their only approved means of atonement. He protects the offering of the poor, even while he dismantles the system of the rich. He points his finger at the men holding the cages. Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade. Then he pivots to the money changers. He steps right into the center of the religious financial machinery. He grips the thick edges of the heavy wooden tables. He heaves. Wood splinters under his hands. Thousands of silver denarii and copper shekels rain across the stone pavement. The sound is a deafening, metallic crash of metal on rock. Coins spin into the cracks of the courtyard. Tables shatter. Chairs splinter. The merchants scramble in the dirt, frantically grasping for their spilled profits as the livestock stampede past them. Jesus stands towering above the scattered silver. He does not strike a single merchant. He strikes their economy. This is not vandalism. It is eviction.